everybody, hope you guys are doing well. Today I just wanted to share with you how I went from this to this. This is by no means a master class, nor do I claim to be any sort of musical expert. I'm just a very enthusiast. Today I just want to share with you 5 little things that I try to keep in mind when I'm starting to make a song. And this goes mostly for composition, not for so much arrangement or music production like the final product, but when I'm really trying to get this small idea into something more of a more fleshed out song. So my first tip is start off as simple as you can. Don't try to overcomplicate things, especially when starting out, because if you start getting too overly fancy with your first idea, you might encounter too much friction and not be able to move on. What you're really trying to do at first is just try to get into the flow, try to get into that focus and inspiration where the music starts flowing. So, for example, what I did here is I started off with the simplest little piano progression. That's it. That's my initial loop. Nothing more fancy than that. And I'm going to build my whole idea on that basis. Don't be too critical on that initial idea because it might not be perfect and it might not make perfect sense at first, but it just has to be enough for you to get going, to get the ball rolling. And then eventually you can start modifying it as you go along. Now, when I started improvising that, I wasn't exactly set on a particular scale. I just, was feeling around until something was nice to the ear. And eventually what I realized was I'm in an F natural minor scale, and for some reason I've been favoring that. But this would be the scale. And what I'm doing is a little progression where I'm going from the 1 to the 3rd to the 5th to the 7th to the 1st again. The second thing that I try to keep in mind when I'm in this stage is that I want to fill in my 4 building blocks of what will be my final loop, which would be the melody, the harmony, the percussion and drums, and the bass line. And what I try to do is not double up on any one of these 4 categories until I've completed all 4. Because, for example, on the drums, you could just start layering and making different patterns for different parts of sequences, and you really don't have a complete song yet. You could just have lots of variations of drums on something that doesn't really have a head or a tail yet. So my recommendation would be try to fill in those 4 blanks, and then you can start adding up on top of that, which kind of moves you into more orchestration than actual musical composition. Right now we still don't have anything resembling a loop or a song. So for now we have the makings of the melody, and this time around I'm going to go for the harmony. Now, there's no particular order that you could go at this, and you can start with the bass, for example, or you can start with the drums. And I actually try to challenge myself because the drums and the bass don't come very naturally to me. So I usually gravitate towards making the melody first and then filling in the blanks. But when I get stuck creatively, I'll go to one of the other ones that don't come as easily. Like, for example, starting off with the bass, which is pretty hard, but it leads to some interesting results and can get you out of a creative block. So here I'm going to use an organ, the plugin that came with the MPC, to fill in the harmony to that melody. And it's going to sound like this. What I love about the organ is that it fills in the room with such a nice presence. It has this vibrance that's, I just love it. Now, if you were paying close attention, you might have noticed that the organ sequencing itself wasn't perfect. There are some chord changes that are a bit sloppy, there's a few notes that might be a bit off, but the reason why they're there is not some, artistic choice here I'm making. It's just that in this stage, I try to not focus on the little micromanaging stuff, that little note that wasn't supposed to be there, or mixing, or maybe get dragged into sound design, because that can easily kill your flow. So that's my other tip right there. Don't get distracted by the technical stuff when you're doing the artistic stuff. Basically, if you're making music and you're feeling that, flow and the muse is talking through you, all that hippie stuff, don't kill it by going into the technical side, because it's really hard to get back into that state of mind where the music is just, expelling out of you. I'm just focused on what feels good, what sounds good, and not exactly what sounds technically perfect. It's an MPC. Everything here, or most of the stuff that I'm doing, is in MIDI, so I can easily correct it later. And that's what I'm going to do after I finish this video. So we have melody, harmony, how about some drums? For the actual sound of the drums, I chose a chill trap kit that comes stock in the MPC. Once again, try not to get too hung up on picking the perfect snare and the perfect kick. Just make sure it's kind of in tune and that the style is conducive to getting more inspiration and just, helping with the general flow of things. Something simple. That's it. Once again, if you notice, there isn't anything very technically impressive about this drum pattern. It's pretty simple, but it fits the song quite well for what I'm doing until now, and it gives it a certain groove, a rhythm, a feel. The groove and the feel is way more important than any technical prowess or, impressive drum blah, 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 blah. And once again, who defines that? Who says that this groove is the groove, or if it's cool or not, whatever? Me. Just me. All of this music, all your music, should be first for yourself. There's this little video clip on YouTube I saw one day, which was really inspiring, where there's this huge auditorium, and I suppose it was a student. He asks this, very, very good musician, very, established guy, who is the music that you make for? Is it for you, or is it for the listener? And this guy, he just nailed the answer. He says, music is always for the listener. But you have to remember, as a musician, you're the guy that listens first. So with that in mind, let's move on to our fourth missing piece, the bass. For the bass, I'm going to be using the Mini D plugin on the MPCX. What I was looking for is to establish a groove, a rhythm, not very complicated, not the greatest bass line ever, just effective, just something that makes sense in the general context. Sounds nice. Nobody wants nice. You want, you want it to pop, right? So what I did was, I remembered that I also play guitar. So I set up my guitar, and besides just strumming, I just wanted to get a little bit more of a, nice taste. So I gave it some Air Delay Pro. Here's what it sounds like. Here's what it sounds like. Here's what it sounds like. Sorry about that. Okay, so until now, I'm kind of feeling this, and I feel that it's something that you could, just clap to or maybe chant to. And when the vocals are over, I'd like it to have this little tiny melodic line on the guitar. So so now it's sounding pretty full. I'm pretty happy with it. And this brings me to my fifth point, which is kill your darlings, because after I spent a lot of time with this, I suddenly realized that my initial loop, my piano, my humble little piano at the very, very beginning, this thing right here, just had nothing to do anymore with the rest of the song. So what are you supposed to do with that? You delete it and you keep moving on. Sometimes you just gotta erase the stuff that's holding you back. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you found it useful, or at least entertaining. This was really fun. I hope you had a good time with me. Please feel free to share any tips and tricks that you guys use to keep your flow intact, and I hope to see you again soon. As always, have a great week. We'll see you next time.